Behind the stoic facade of every Sigma male lies a labyrinth of untold fears, buried deep beneath layers of independence and self-reliance. These enigmatic individuals often appear unshakable, navigating life with a sense of calm detachment. But even the most seemingly impenetrable of men have their demons. What keeps these lone wolves awake at night? What hidden vulnerabilities threaten to disrupt their carefully crafted image of control? You might be surprised by how much remains unsaid. From personal insecurities to subtle anxieties they can barely admit to themselves, these fears drive Sigma males in unexpected ways. Whether you're a Sigma or simply intrigued by what makes them tick, prepare for a journey into the heart of their most guarded fears, ones they'd rather keep hidden from the world. Pastor 1. Losing control of their emotions in public. For the Sigma male, control is everything, especially when it comes to their emotions. They are the masters of maintaining an aura of calm and collectedness, even in the most challenging situations. But beneath that composed surface lies a powerful fear, the fear of losing control of their emotions in front of others. This fear runs deep. As for a Sigma male displaying vulnerability, whether it's through tears, anger, or even laughter, feels like exposing a crack in their well-constructed armor. Imagine the quiet chaos that brews inside when a Sigma faces the possibility of breaking down in public. The mere thought of having an emotional outburst, of crying in front of colleagues or losing their temper in a heated conversation is enough to cause internal panic. It's not just about embarrassment. For the Sigma, it's about losing the very thing that defines them, their self-reliance and emotional independence. In their minds, showing emotions, especially in public, equates to showing weakness. And for someone who prides themselves on strength, that is a terrifying prospect. This constant need to keep their emotions in check often leads Sigma males to bottle up their feelings, even when they are overwhelmed. Rather than risk an emotional slip, they rehearse conversations, plan their responses, and avoid situations that may trigger intense feelings. They'll even withdraw from social gatherings to maintain their emotional control, all in an effort to keep their cool at all costs. Yet, this intense emotional restraint comes at a price. The longer they suppress their feelings, the more pressure builds within them. Like a volcano ready to erupt, a Sigma's emotions can sometimes explode when pushed too far. When that happens, the outburst can be as shocking to them as it is to those around them. And when the dam breaks, they're left vulnerable, exposed, and filled with the very fear they've been trying to avoid, being seen as fragile or weak. What's more, this fear of emotional exposure often has roots in something much deeper. The belief that if they reveal their true feelings, others will use that vulnerability against them. To a Sigma, showing emotions is like handing someone the keys to their innermost thoughts and fears, a risk they are unwilling to take. As a result, they go to great lengths to preserve their emotional independence, even if it means living in a constant state of restraint. For the Sigma male, losing control of their emotions isn't just a fear. It's a challenge to their very identity. It's the one area where they feel most vulnerable, and yet the one thing they refuse to admit to others, or even to themselves. And while they may succeed in keeping their emotions in check most of the time, the weight of this fear continues to shape their behavior, keeping them on edge, always striving to maintain the calm exterior that hides the storm within. 2. Opening up to others, only to be let down. For Sigma males, trust is a rare and precious thing. They don't give it easily, and when they do, it comes after careful consideration and emotional investment. Yet one of their deepest fears is that of opening up to others, only to be let down in the end. This fear isn't just about disappointment. It's about vulnerability, about allowing someone into their inner world, only to have that trust shattered. For a Sigma, such betrayal feels like a fundamental failure, not just of the other person, but of their own judgment. Sigma males are often misunderstood as loners who avoid relationships altogether, but that's not the full picture. They crave meaningful connections just like anyone else, but they approach them with caution and hesitance. Their social circles may be small, but the bonds they do form are deep and intense. This makes the prospect of betrayal or being let down all the more devastating. Unlike those who can quickly brush off a betrayal, a Sigma male internalizes it, viewing it as a breach of the very foundation they've built with that person. This fear is rooted in past experiences, where trust was given and then broken. It might be the friend who promised loyalty but turned their back when things got tough, or the romantic partner who seemed trustworthy but ultimately deceived them. These wounds cut deep for Sigma males, and they take a long time to heal. Once burned, they become even more selective about who they let into their lives, often constructing emotional barriers to avoid repeating the same pain. The emotional walls they build aren't merely for show. They are a defense mechanism, a way to protect themselves from future hurt. While some might see this as cold or distant behavior, it's simply a strategy for survival. To a Sigma male, trusting the wrong person is a dangerous gamble, one that could leave them exposed and vulnerable. They might test people subtly, gauging how they respond to different situations before fully committing to any form of closeness. Even when they do allow someone in, there's always a part of them that remains guarded, always wary of the possibility of being let down. But this fear comes with a heavy price. The emotional distance that Sigma males maintain can sometimes isolate them, even from those who truly care about them. Their reluctance to open up fully can be misinterpreted as disinterest or aloofness, making it difficult for others to connect with them on a deeper level. This creates a paradox. The more they fear being hurt, the more they distance themselves, and the more they distance themselves, the harder it becomes to experience the meaningful connections they secretly desire. In relationships, this fear manifests as a constant push and pull. Sigma males may deeply care about someone but hesitate to show it, fearing that their openness will be met with disappointment or rejection. They struggle with balancing their need for independence with their desire for connection. On one hand, they long for someone who understands them, but on the other, they are terrified of exposing too much of themselves and then having that vulnerability used against them. The few people who manage to break through these emotional walls and earn the trust of a Sigma male hold a privileged position. These relationships, though rare, are fiercely loyal and enduring. However, when such a bond is broken, the impact is profound. The Sigma male might retreat even further into himself, vowing never to let anyone else in, strengthening his emotional defenses to prevent further hurt. Ultimately, the fear of opening up only to be let down is a reflection of the Sigma male's inner world, a place where trust is sacred, and vulnerability is viewed as both a necessity and a risk. It's a fear that keeps them cautious, reserved, and sometimes distant, but it's also what drives them to seek out relationships that are real, deep, and genuine. They don't fear connection itself. They fear the sting of betrayal and the pain of broken trust, which for them is far more damaging than any other emotional wound. 3. Failing to reach their full potential. For Sigma males, the drive to achieve their fullest potential is not just a casual ambition. It is a fundamental part of their identity. They are known for their independence, their relentless pursuit of self-improvement, and their desire to live life on their own terms. Yet beneath this calm determination lies a fear that gnaws at them, the fear of never realizing the greatness they believe they are capable of. It's a fear that isn't about impressing others or meeting societal expectations. It's deeply personal. The thought of waking up one day, looking back at their life, and realizing they've left something unfinished is haunting for a Sigma male. What if all the dreams they've nurtured, the goals they've set for themselves, and the skills they've worked so hard to cultivate never fully materialize? This isn't just a fleeting worry. It's a fear that keeps them up at night, driving them to constantly push harder, work longer, and strive to be better. The fear of wasted potential is a shadow that follows them, always whispering that they could be doing more, that time is running out. Unlike others who may measure success by external markers like wealth, recognition, or societal validation, Sigma males gauge themselves by their internal compass. Their fear of not reaching their full potential is tied to their own vision of who they should be, and that vision is often idealistic, sometimes even unattainably high. They set standards for themselves that are so rigorous they can feel crushing. It's not enough for them to succeed in the eyes of others. They need to succeed by their own lofty measures, which makes their fear all the more intense. This constant drive can be both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it pushes Sigma males to explore new opportunities, learn continuously, and never settle for mediocrity. They become lifelong learners, always seeking ways to improve and grow. However, this same drive can also lead them down a path of exhaustion and burnout. The fear of failure, or worse, of mediocrity, can become so overwhelming that they never feel satisfied with their achievements. Each victory feels fleeting, and every accomplishment is soon overshadowed by the next challenge they feel compelled to conquer. Moreover, this fear often makes Sigma males hesitant to commit to one particular path. The nagging question, "What if I'm meant for something more?" is always at the back of their minds. They might hop from career to career or hobby to hobby, not out of indecision, but out of a restless desire to ensure they're not missing out on their true calling. The idea of being the jack of all trades, master of none, terrifies them, as it feels like proof that they haven't fully realized their unique potential. As they grow older, this fear often intensifies. Every passing year feels like another opportunity lost, another moment they could have used to make their mark on the world. The pressure to leave a lasting legacy, to be someone who made a difference in their own unique way, can weigh heavily on them. It's not just about success. It's about self-actualization, about becoming the person they were always meant to be. This fear, as daunting as it is, also fuels the Sigma male's relentless pursuit of growth. It keeps them moving forward, striving for that elusive sense of fulfillment. But it also comes with the constant danger of dissatisfaction, of never feeling like they've done enough. The Sigma's greatest strength, their drive for self-improvement, can easily become their greatest burden, pulling them into a never-ending cycle of ambition and fear. And perhaps this fear is one they can never truly escape, as it's born from their deepest desire to live life without limits, to be the best version of themselves, no matter the cost. 4. Being manipulated or controlled without realizing it. For a Sigma male, few things are more terrifying than the idea of being manipulated or controlled without their awareness. Independence and self-reliance are the pillars of their identity, so the thought that someone could be subtly steering their thoughts or actions is a deep-rooted fear. Sigma males pride themselves on being critical thinkers, immune to the influence of others, but this fear, that they could be a puppet in someone else's game, haunts them. This fear is not just about blatant manipulation, like someone overtly pressuring them to act a certain way. It's more insidious than that. Sigma males worry about the subtle forms of influence that they might not detect until it's too late. They fear the idea that their thoughts, decisions, or even life path could be shaped by others without them realizing it. Whether it's societal pressures, marketing tactics, or even the quiet influence of close relationships, the idea that they could lose control over their autonomy is deeply unsettling. As a result, Sigma males are constantly on guard, questioning every interaction, every suggestion, and every influence that comes their way. They are analytical to a fault, dissecting conversations and decisions, always ensuring that their choices are truly their own. This constant vigilance can make them seem aloof or overly cautious, but it's their way of protecting their independence. They are often skeptical of authority figures, wary of trends, and resistant to groupthink, preferring to carve their own path rather than follow the one society lays out for them. Their fear of being controlled extends to all areas of life. In relationships, they may keep a certain distance, fearing that emotional closeness could give someone too much influence over their thoughts or actions. In their careers, they resist corporate structures that might box them in or dictate their decisions. Sigma males crave autonomy in every aspect of their lives, and any situation where they feel their freedom is at risk triggers this fear. Yet this hyper-awareness of potential manipulation also makes Sigma males incredibly perceptive. They have a sharp ability to see through others' motives, spotting manipulation or control tactics before they take hold. They can quickly read people and situations, detecting subtle power plays that others might miss. This perceptiveness makes them formidable strategists, as they're always 3 steps ahead, guarding themselves against external control. However, the downside of this constant vigilance is that it can lead to isolation. Sigma males, in their quest to avoid being controlled, might miss out on opportunities for meaningful relationships or collaboration. Their mistrust of others' motives can make it difficult for them to fully let their guard down, even around people who genuinely care for them. They often keep an emotional distance, even from those who have proven themselves trustworthy, just in case. The irony is that this fear of being controlled sometimes controls them. In their effort to maintain complete independence, Sigma males can become so focused on guarding against manipulation that they end up limiting their own experiences. They may avoid situations where they might have to rely on others or where they feel they aren't fully in control, which can prevent them from growing or taking healthy risks. Ultimately, this fear stems from the Sigma male's deep need for self-determination. They are fiercely protective of their freedom, their thoughts, and their decisions. To them, autonomy is not just a preference, it's a core value. The idea that someone could manipulate or influence them, even in the smallest ways, is not just uncomfortable, it feels like a betrayal of who they are. And while this fear keeps them vigilant and perceptive, it can also create barriers that prevent them from fully engaging with the world around them. In the end, the Sigma male's fear of being manipulated or controlled without realizing it speaks to their greatest desire: to live life entirely on their own terms, unshackled by the expectations or influence of others. They will do whatever it takes to protect that freedom, even if it means constantly questioning everything and everyone around them. 5. Being unable to protect those they care about. Despite their reputation as lone wolves, Sigma males care deeply about the people they let into their lives. Beneath their tough, self-reliant exterior, there's a profound sense of responsibility for their loved ones. However, one of their most deeply rooted fears is the possibility of being unable to protect those they care about. This fear is not just about physical safety. It extends to emotional, financial, and even spiritual well-being. For a Sigma male, the idea of failing in this duty feels like a personal defeat, a failure that strikes at the core of who they are. Sigma males are often seen as the pillars of strength in their social circles. Friends, family, and partners look to them for guidance, advice, and support, trusting their calm and calculated demeanor in times of crisis. But what many don't see is the weight of that responsibility, the sleepless nights spent worrying about the challenges their loved ones face. Whether it's a friend struggling with mental health, a sibling facing financial hardship, or a partner navigating a difficult life decision, the Sigma male often takes on these burdens as if they were his own. What makes this fear particularly painful for Sigma males is their belief in their ability to solve problems. They are natural problem solvers, always analyzing situations and coming up with solutions. But there are some things they cannot fix, and this is where the fear creeps in. What if, despite their best efforts, they cannot shield the people they love from harm? What if their guidance, their support, their protection is not enough? These questions haunt them, often leading them to take on more than they can handle in an attempt to preemptively solve every potential problem. This fear is compounded by the Sigma's need for control. They thrive on independence and the ability to manage situations with precision, so the thought of being helpless or out of control when it comes to protecting their loved ones is terrifying. When faced with a situation where they can't offer a solution, the Sigma male may retreat into himself, feeling a deep sense of frustration and failure. They might distance themselves emotionally, not because they don't care, but because they can't bear the thought of letting their loved ones down. Ironically, this fear can sometimes push people away. In their quest to protect and support those they care about, Sigma males can become overly intense, trying to take on too much responsibility. Their desire to protect can come across as controlling, as they try to steer loved ones away from what they perceive as danger or bad decisions. This intensity can be overwhelming for those around them, who may feel suffocated by the Sigma's relentless need to protect. Yet the root of this fear is deeply noble. Sigma males don't seek recognition for their acts of care. They do it out of a genuine sense of duty and love. They are the ones who will quietly take on burdens, offer help without being asked, and stand by their loved ones in the most difficult times. But when they are unable to fulfill this role, it strikes at their sense of purpose and self-worth. Even more difficult for the Sigma male is the realization that sometimes the people they care about don't want or need the level of protection they are offering. Sigma males are wired to fix, to solve, prevent harm, but not everyone needs or desires that level of involvement. This can leave them feeling conflicted, unsure of how to balance their need to protect with the independence of their loved ones. Ultimately, the fear of being unable to protect those they care about reflects the Sigma male's deep emotional investment in his relationships. While they may appear distant or aloof to outsiders, their inner world is rich with concern and care for those closest to them. This fear is a constant reminder of the limits of their control, and while they may never admit it, it's a vulnerability that shapes their actions, their relationships, and their very identity. Conclusion. At first glance, Sigma males may seem like the epitome of self-reliance and emotional resilience, always in control, always calm under pressure. But beneath that composed exterior lies a complex world of hidden fears. Fears they keep tightly locked away from others, and even from themselves. These fears are not trivial or superficial. They are deeply intertwined with the Sigma male's core values of independence, self-control, and emotional detachment. And while they may never openly admit to these vulnerabilities, they shape their thoughts, behaviors, and interactions in profound ways. The fear of losing control over their emotions in public reflects their relentless need to maintain composure, to guard against any hint of weakness. The fear of failing to reach their full potential drives their constant pursuit of self-improvement, even as it leaves them susceptible to burnout and dissatisfaction. The dread of being manipulated or controlled without realizing it speaks to their fiercely independent nature, which pushes them to scrutinize every decision and relationship, even at the cost of genuine connection. Their fear of being unable to protect those they care about reveals a deep well of emotional responsibility, a quiet devotion that contrasts with their lone wolf persona. Each of these fears tells a story of a man who values his autonomy above all else, who strives to live life on his own terms, and who finds any crack in that armor terrifying. These fears are not weaknesses. They are the very forces that drive Sigma males to be vigilant, ambitious, and at times emotionally distant. Yet they are also reminders of the limits of control, the unpredictability of life, and the fragility of human connection. The Sigma male's fears are a double-edged sword. On one side, they fuel the relentless pursuit of personal growth, emotional self-reliance, and careful deliberation. But on the other, they create walls that can isolate them from deeper relationships and opportunities for growth. In their quest to be invulnerable, they may inadvertently keep themselves from experiencing the richness of human connection and the relief that comes with admitting vulnerability. In the end, these hidden fears are what makes Sigma males human. They remind us that no matter how independent or unshakable someone may appear, there is always a layer of vulnerability beneath the surface. These fears are not obstacles to overcome, but aspects of the Sigma male's identity that shape who they are and how they navigate the world. Understanding these fears allows us to appreciate the complexity of Sigma males, their quiet strength, their unspoken worries, and their constant balancing act between independence and connection, control and vulnerability.